So welcome in the third season of Bottom Line Studio. My name is Linda Sinka and I work at Riga Business School as a project manager, and for this season I will be this podcast moderator. As some of you know that previously this podcast was for alumni were invited to speak up, but we will start this season with a special guest from Harvard University from CS50 course, Bernie Longboy. And just to give a bit context, Riga Business School is collaborating with CS50 team. We are translating CS50 Harvard University computer science materials. We are organizing teacher trainings. We have 16 teachers who have completed this course and teaching CS50 course for students in high school. And as well, we now have 700 students at university level who are taking CS50 at Riga Technical University and as well at Riga Business School. So this has happened in just 1 year, and we are very excited and happy for the results that we have achieved. So this session will be about CS50, about the leadership, how Bernie sees the leadership, about the technology through the lens from her personal life and as well from her career. So welcome, Bernie. Just give quick introduction and maybe the story, how you got into CS50 team.
Sure. Well, again, thank you, Linda, and welcome to the audience and the alums of Riga Business School. And I just want to share again my gratitude for giving me this opportunity to be here this weekend for the Light of Latvia conference, and today meeting with teachers here in Latvia to talk about CS50, educating them about the tools, the curriculum of CS50, and really all the nuts and bolts of how to primarily teach CS50 and all the tools and resources that are available and being part of this community. So this is my second time to Latvia, to Riga, and I feel so honored again to be here, and the welcome that I've received from everyone here from both schools, Riga Business School and Riga Technical University. So I would, in terms of my story, so I head up our outreach and partnerships for CS50. And if those of you who are not that familiar, as Linda mentioned a little about CS50, CS50 is the largest undergraduate introductory to computer science course at Harvard. And there are three platforms that students can engage in the curriculum and take the course. One is as a Harvard College student or at one of the other schools at Harvard. And that class in the fall usually can have anywhere from 500 to 800 students in a given semester. And students attend live lectures with Professor David Malin. The second way that students can engage in the curriculum is through the Extension School, the Harvard Extension School, which is out of the Division of Continuing Education at Harvard. And that is the other way that students can engage in the course and the curriculum. And the third way, that is probably the most accessible way for students around the world, is through the edX course. And that is through OpenCourseWare, and students can engage in CS50X on the edX platform. So in terms of how I came to be a part of CS50, so my career has been overseas for the last 14, 15 years. I've been living abroad and working at international schools as an international school counselor. And when 2 years ago, it's kind of hard for me to believe that it's been 2 years now, in 2021, I decided during the pandemic that I wanted to return home to the US. And Professor David Malin, I've known for many years. We worked at a startup together when we finished at Harvard. And we always stayed friends over the years. We would see each other when I'd come through Boston. And when I was ready to sort of come back to the States, I had reached out to him and thought about working for tech companies in their education wing. Education is what I know. It's something that I can't escape. So and I don't want to escape it. It is my passion, and it's what I know. So I reached out to him, and in conversations and in some informal meetings with some companies that he had introduced me to, at one point while I was still overseas, he mentioned, why don't you come and work for me at CS50? And I said, well, doing what exactly, as I was not a teacher of CS. And so he had mentioned that he really wanted to make a more concerted effort to bring CS50 to anyone in the world, to make it more accessible to students all over the world in whatever form that they could take the course. And he had talked about how outreach for CS50 in Harvard really was, it always kind of fell on our laps. Nothing. We were fortunate to be Harvard in many ways, both a blessing and a curse. And so there was not a lot of us reaching out to teachers or schools or partners. It was more things sort of kind of landing on our laps and then sort of working with whomever contacted us. And so his goal was, let's try to reach out to more students, more people out there, because his belief is that quality CS education should not be just for the incoming 1,600 students at Harvard College. And so I thought, wow, I was really inspired by this message and his philosophy and his thinking. And so I thought, okay, why not? And so in 2021, when I moved back to the States, I moved back to Boston and have basically have been in this role ever since. So,
what did you notice in terms of the values and because you have worked in multiple places, in multiple universities, was there something that surprised you? Or because I know that 4 million people have registered for CS50 course, so there has been something why it's so unique. So
I think what resonated with me was the fact that here you have Harvard University, right? This famous university around the world for its quality of education. It's a household name, right? Everybody knows Harvard, no matter where you are, no matter where you go. And so you have this standard that is Harvard University and the education, obviously, that's associated with the university. And I thought, wow, this is such a cool idea of education, a course at Harvard that could be made accessible to everyone around the world. And I think a lot of that credit also goes to David and how he engages the students and how he teaches CS50. And in today's workshop, one of the sessions was about the curriculum, but about the theatricality of CS50 and the example of all the demonstrations and using the props. And to me, that was something you just don't see anywhere else, especially for a course like CS, right? An introductory computer science course. You may see that in, I don't know, social studies courses where, at least in the secondary level, maybe sort of acting out, periods of history or something like that, or imitating moments, events, historical events. But I never thought, you could transpose that and have it done in this CS curriculum, right, in this discipline. So I thought that was super interesting. And I think probably what really touched me as well, or really sort of hit me, I guess, is when he and I were having these conversations, the fact that, with COVID happening and the pandemic and the world kind of shutting down, everybody sort of looking at courses online. And I think also just the time we were in the world, that you hear more and more about the inequity, right? The access to resources, the access to quality education, the barriers that we see were widening, right, between the haves and the haves not. And I think that really resonated with me as well, in this kind of mindset and time and period that we were in. And, you know, everything that you would see on the news was just more and more about this widening gap. And so maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago, had he approached me and said, you know, let's work on, you know, outreach, I'm not quite sure if that would have resonated with me as much as it did, you know, just 3 years ago. So I think that's kind of the, as you asked, you know, the touchstone. I think it was all of those pieces sort of coming together and, you know, made me realize that I wanted to do something that was impactful. I mean, I know that's such a cliche and that word is used so often, but I really felt like after my time as a school counselor, I was feeling more and more that I wanted to do something that would be more, that would reach more people in terms of impact.
Yeah, in Latvia, also from the conference takeaway that we really try to think about best practices, how to modernize instructional materials, and what you just mentioned about that one of the key success factors were how computer science is explained. And you have been here in Latvia for 2 times, and you have met Latvian teachers, professors. So knowing what Harvard is doing and seeing professors in the morning, so what should we do differently, or how can we offer more modern education in computer science? So what are your thoughts, and how can we become better in teaching computer science?
So good question. I think I try to come at this from everyone has the best intentions, you know, even though it may not be perceived that way. I think all the teachers who attended the session today obviously came because they want to learn and they want to increase their knowledge of CS and have the tools that will make them allow them to be successful in their classrooms. And I'm not saying that CS50 is the end-all be-all for all teachers. And again, one of the things that I think David talks about is, you know, when he did this session for SIGSI, and there is a YouTube video of it, that he talks very much about the theatricality of CS50 and using props for demonstrations. But one of the things that he makes clear is that, you know, it's not a one model fits all. You know, a lot of those things, again, Harvard is so well resourced that we were able to have access to the ART, this beautiful repertory theater, and to have all of these resources available at the ART for us to use during the pandemic, since the theater obviously closed down and nobody could use the theater. And you had all these wonderful artisans and creative people, stage people, all the people that make up, you know, working in a theater that we could also, you know, utilize and be able to use their work, right? Have them work and help us and still be creative and not be sitting back and just idle at that time. So I think, again, best intentions, I think the number one thing is, and one of the, during our meeting with the Prime Minister today, with the government officials and the other Riga Business School partners, I think somebody mentioned about having confidence, right? I think instilling that confidence in these teachers to allow them to you know, again, really absorb all the materials in front of them, the tools, the resources that we give them, and to feel confident, to use them, but even more confident to be able to, after a certain time, say, you know, I like these bits and pieces that I will use from CS50, but look, I've also created my own materials or things that I'd like to use. So, that confidence is so important, but how do you get that confidence, right? Is by doing and repetitive. And so I think if the teachers continue to attend wonderful sessions like today that were offered freely, professional development sessions, workshop sessions, there are a lot of things that are free. Obviously, pretty much everything that we offer is free on our channel, YouTube channel, on basically all our teacher resources. So if they can take the time to actually access those materials, and then hopefully turn around and utilize them, I think, again, that will increase confidence. But I think what we talked about with community is so important. And, one of the first exercises that we did this morning, right, was that opening, energizing activity of getting to know the other participants in the session will allow them to say, hey, now I know you from, I know Maris from the session from, this morning that was conducted at RBS, that CS50, that Bernie and Carter did, and I can reach out to them now. It's not just about reaching out to us at CS50, but I can reach out to these other teachers that were also participants and had great ideas. Because as I listen to some of the conversations, obviously my Latvian is non-existent, but when I did hear English speaking, or you can also just sometimes tell from how people are engaging, that there were some really positive things and great discussions that happened. So again, getting the teachers to feel confident, and that's not just a Latvian thing. I mean, we have seen it in the US where, I talked about how the computer science initiative that came about in 2022 from the 50 governors of the US. And there were a lot of teachers, as I went to conferences all across the country last year, that were saying, now our state, whether I'm from Arkansas or Kansas or California, my state now is mandating that, our schools teach CS, and we don't even have a CS teacher. I'm the, what do you call it? Just the media teacher at school, and they want me to teach because they think that it would be the natural fit for, for CS. And trying to instill confidence in them. And so I get it, it's a difficult position to be in, but I guess one that I'm saying is it's not exclusive, it's not just on Latvian teachers. This is a situation all around the world, that there is a dearth of qualified CS teachers right now in the K-12 space. And so how do you get more teachers to up to speed to train, to teach CS, get them trained, and then to turn around and teach CS. So it's the numbers are, we are in a shortage right now, right? So
it really gives memories from our Boston trip, and about the confidence in general and how to build the confidence. And sometimes you're afraid, trying, experimenting. Also, those teachers who started, they were afraid, and they, didn't know. So it was, new programming language. And it takes me to the next question about the leadership. And I see those teachers who have completed the course, who came this morning to teach they are more confident.
yes.
And I know that you have at Harvard, you have also a lot of TFs. And if we talk about the leaders, and what do you think, what describes them? One is the confidence, but how those who don't feel, that comfortable yet, okay, one thing is start doing, but what do you think describes like leadership in education?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Leadership in education. I actually want to rewind a bit to something else that you said and address that first. You said, the teachers, you mentioned the Boston, the educator workshop, right, that we had in June. And I believe it was about 14 of your Latvian teachers that came to Boston and were participants in the workshop. And I think I think we're not giving enough credit. And sometimes when you're in it, as the program manager for this, I think sometimes, we don't recognize the success that we actually have. And I bring that up again because I do recall the teachers that were at the workshop, and even prior to that, them taking the course. It is difficult and it's challenging, as you mentioned. But seeing how at the Light Up Latvia conference yesterday, how 5 of your teachers were there to present with you when you did the presentation on the Harvard CS50 and Riga Business School partnership. I was amazed at that. And the fact that 3 of the 5 teachers were women, first of all, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, there were also at least 1 or 2 of them were some that were sort of hesitant at first and didn't feel the confidence, right, is what you were saying. And yet clearly they know CS, they understand it, and they were rock stars yesterday. I was just amazed to see them up there presenting and answering questions. They clearly were, they had engaged with the presentation and their slides, and then being able to answer the questions. So that to me is a win, and I think as the teacher should take that as a win. But I think also, Linda, as the program manager, you should take that as a win, because that really wasn't even that long ago when you think about it, right? So and then seeing again today 3 of the teachers, and different ones even, who were also going around the room and helping the teachers get set up while Carter was doing the session on the CS50 tools and getting them set up. So already, just even in the 24 hours, how one of the teachers yesterday seemed even more comfortable and confident. So I think we need to also cut ourselves some slack. I know that we like to see, and as I know myself, and I know our team, that we do like to see things, very quickly and the turnaround time. But I think we've already accomplished some of that. And again, to mention, and you've heard me say it several times in different formats, but the puzzle day, you had talked about your goals for the program, and when you came to Harvard with the team, and that was on one of your slides, that this is what your metrics and your goals of what you wanted to accomplish. And puzzle day is like, check, that was one of the things that you all got done. And from what I hear, it was fabulous. And the pictures you shared, and hearing from other people, not just from you, the educator workshop, check, So I think all of those are really important. Now, to get to your question about leadership, what in my mind is great leadership.
Yeah, we have talked about a lot of teachers, but I know that we have people who are not from this field. What is leadership for you? And as I mentioned, that you worked in very different places, and what have you noticed, or what is important to see in the team that you are working for? Where do you get energy? I saw how many emails you get, from India, from Indonesia, how do you get the energy?
So I think my energy comes from students, for one thing. Being around, I think young people always is energizing, and it keeps you young. Keeps you young at heart, at least. I think working with great partners like you all, our Indonesian partners, and all our different partners around the world. And as I mentioned before, our partners can be anything from, a teacher just teaching CS50 as a solo teacher in their school, to, an organization, a nonprofit organization, to a school district, or as we've mentioned before, a whole government, right, and working with their teachers. So I think when you see the aha moments from those teachers, the enthusiasm and the energy, right, I think, that's common knowledge, right, that you feed off of people when they have great energy and positive energy. And so when I see that, it completely energizes me. But again, getting back to your question about good leadership, you're right. I've had a very varied career in education, from working in startups, from working for nonprofit organizations to working at schools. And I would say, I think a good leader, in my mind, is not necessarily. I think this is always, especially in America, I sometimes feel that people think the loudest person in the room, is the leader, or the sort of that take charge attitude. And I think a good leader can also be very quiet and can also step back. It's kind of like I like to think of the wave, right? When you're standing on the beach, a good leader knows when to sort of step up as the wave sort of comes in and lead, but also a good leader knows when to step back, and maybe somebody else with other strengths need to step forward. I think that's super important. I think a good leader also knows how to listen and really knows their team and gets to know people and engage with them. I think sometimes, I laugh because you would think sometimes, and Riga is a business school, but Management 101, sometimes, the simplest things are sometimes the easiest things to do, but it's also what keeps your employees happiest, is that gratitude, that really, and not just kind of the remote, the rote sort of thank you for a great job, but really taking that time to show the gratitude and appreciation that you have, right, for your team. And I know that you all chuckle about this, because I think it's also so important to recognize that, and I try to do it in front of other people that, for example, again, this whole trip and for me to be here took a lot of work on your part and the rest of your team, right? So, and recognizing that and valuing it, and hopefully, recognizing that your leaders see that too, right? That it's a team. So I think it's really, but again, also the listening, right? And really being aware and cognizant of your employees, because sometimes it can be the simplest thing, and they've done studies on this, that will make, it doesn't have to be the fancy, I don't know, gift or that bonus or whatever. Sometimes it's the smallest, just thank you for your work, and really showing that appreciation for what you've done for the team. And that goes such a long way, so it's very simple, I think, but very lost.
And I think it's very crucial for Latvians, because we are pushing, we have a lot of, ambitious, as you heard from today, a lot of ideas, but we sometimes forget the people, who are working hard every day to make it happen, and especially those who are working with our children or students.
Absolutely.
Because standards change. There are constantly requirements from the higher level, but in the end of the day, they are the ones who are building the future. So it's, I think, Bernie, it's a good reminder to saying not just like general thank you, but finding that effort that employee or teacher is really good at. And I really also, when I work with the teachers, I see it works. And this is how we really build a team, and we can move forward through difficult times, because challenges are so many, and every day.
And I like to say this, but it's so true. Teachers are on the front line. We saw that with the COVID pandemic and all of that, and they really do, and it's everywhere around the world. I think they have one of the hardest jobs, and yet sometimes there's so little gratitude for teachers and the work and what they do, right? So I try to remember that every day, that teachers are really at the front line of all of this, right? And really, how important are they that they're educating our children, the youth of today, right? So
Our next topic is about technology. So first, through your personal story, I know you don't have background in computer science. So what made you to choose that path in technology?
Again, really great question. I think there is so much, and I mentioned this yesterday in one of the sessions that CS is really a foundational discipline, right? There's so many ways and so many other disciplines that can use computer science, right? There are some people at today's around the table, at the Prime Minister's table, as I'll call it. I'm not really sure what to call that, who talked about biotechnology. And that's huge, right? Where we're going with that. People were talking about AI. So I find this area, this field, so important because I think it has, again, so much potential to alleviate a lot of problems in the world and suffering. That sounds very sort of grandiose and idealistic, but I really do. I really believe that. And I think even giving students even basic, kind of exposure to CS is so important. So, we tell students sometimes that at the K to 12 level that, maybe you're taking CS, but maybe you're not necessarily, getting an A in it or even a B, but just even having exposure to a course like that is so important because at the end of the day, it's the problem solving skills, right? So one of your teachers had mentioned to me, about, again, cheating and, they can look up problems, the solutions for this and chat GPT and getting their answers. And I say, that sure, they can do some of that stuff. And, we're always going to try to stay ahead of the curve, right? In terms of the new ways that students can, again, cheat or, commit academic dishonesty. But my thought is that they're really doing a disservice to themselves because really computer science, at its core, it's problem solving, right? So if we can't give our students that skill, then, what are we doing, right? I mean, so I think if we can sort of turn it around and they don't just see it as, especially for folks who might fear or think, oh, computer science, it's so difficult and I don't understand it, but really kind of talk about it as it's helping with problem solving, right? A lot of the problems in the world today. And let's face it, I mean, it's kind of a scary, stressful time right now that we're living in, right? And some people can say, oh, but, we experienced that, 20 years ago and 30 years ago, whenever, there were, disputes around the world. But I really do feel like it is a challenging time right now. And I think it's important, again, now I'm sounding like, my parents, like arming the young people of today with, these skills, right? To hopefully, again, make a better world, right? I mean, we have climate issues, we have these issues, poverty, continues to exist in most of the world. And if you look at the data, it's becoming even greater, right? The disparity between the haves and the have-nots. If we can look at technology and modern, all of this technology in different formats to maybe alleviate some of this, the suffering and the problems, then again, that's a win-win, right? And having, whether it's Latvian youth or American teenagers or youth, trying to conquer or problem solve these issues, and that's the way I really think about it. So I think, again, students really, it's a disservice that they're cheating themselves if they don't allow themselves to learn this stuff, right, to really problem solve.
You said computer science is about problem solving, and I think it's very unique that at Harvard at CS50 correct me if I'm wrong, that half of the students are not IT students. So it would be interesting for our listeners to see, like, to hear what do students say at the beginning of the course who are not related to computer science at all, and how do they push through?
Yeah.
Because now we have a lot of initiatives, and also from Riga Technical University, like students from not IT field is invited to take CS50, but it's hard. So what are the tips and tricks, and what is the experience, so we have more tech-savvy people in Latvia?
Sure. You know, is it tech savvy or is it problem solving too, right? Again, going back to that. And I think that's where we kind of need to get out of that mindset of, we think of computer science, computers, and for some people it might naturally just sort of, in programming, it might turn them off. But I think if we can sort of redefine it and say, you know, computer science is really about problem solving, right? Then maybe the response from young people, you know, whether it's elementary, middle school, high school age, or college age students, to not fear it so much if it's, you know, kind of if it's explained in a different way. So I think, you know, we do a lot of scaffolding. I mean, so the way the CS course is set up, it's really, there are a lot of, there's a lot of support built into it for the students who've not had any CS experience. We, again, you know, we have teaching fellows, TFs that support them. A lot of different things. We have, as I mentioned, you know, we have office hours for one thing. We have labs. We have these things called the shorts, right, where they can just, they get the overall lecture, but then it goes into a short, literally short description of what, you know, David was covering in that lecture, to whatever, if it's, you know, binary loop or you know, any of the other topics that are covered. So I think, again, there's a lot of scaffolding so to help students. But I think, you know, what's unique about Harvard, it's also, they really feel like it's kind of a rite of passage to take CS50, right? So, and that's really a testament to David and CS50 of how popular the course is. But you know, my personal experience just recently, so just to give you an example of how sort of far-reaching or wide-reaching CS50 is. So now that, you know, during the pandemic, or even immediately after it, we could not have outside guests coming to the lecture. And this was something that we always welcomed before the pandemic. So, you know, the CS50, the fall class, is held in this beautiful, as you've seen, right, Memorial Hall, Sanders Theater, and, you know, it's just, the building itself is just an architectural dream, right, to just, you know, visit and look at the building and actually go into it and see it. And so, you know, seeing students in the course, we weren't able to allow outsiders to come in. And so now having folks, a lot of outsiders, when I say outsiders, I mean, you know, not students, you know, these are students who have taken the edX course, you know, CS50 online through OpenCourseWare. And so the other day, it just literally was just on this past Monday, we had 2 sets of couples come in. And I say couples because they were, you know, husband and wife couples, older couples, maybe in their 60s. And I naturally knew not to assume who had taken the course. You know, was it the male in the couple or the female? And what was so cool to see, it was both the women in this, you know, sort of, I don't want to say elderly couple, but, you know, that was the case. And one couple was from Hong Kong, and the woman had been in banking, and I believe she was retired. And the other couple was from Germany, and similar. The woman had taken CS50 online and really wanted to, you know, see the lecture. So, again, I feel like it's in terms of the recognition and who has been touched by this course, so to speak, right? I think is so amazing. So again, the diversity of the students who have taken the course, whether it's through the college, through the extension school, Division of Continuing Ed, or through OpenCourseWare, right, through online edX, is just amazing. And so I'm always heartened to see that and hear that, because it also allows us to see that it's changing, right? It's not just a male-dominated sort of field or subject matter anymore. So,
yeah, we are coming to end.
okay.
We are coming to end. It was very interesting discussion, and maybe the last question for you is, those who don't feel, comfortable with computer science, like, what would you suggest, or like think to take this leap or take this step and take the CS50 or other course? What would you say for those who are like saying, that's not for me, but I'm still interested in what's happening there?
Right, right. I think the times that we're in right now, with all the chat about AI and all of that, I just think CS, technology, however you want to define it, we can't ignore, right? I mean, it literally alleviates world problems and health, and the things that are going on are so incredible that you hear about because of technology, right? And solving some of these greater problems that the world is experiencing. So I think I think the times are really changing, and I think if people give it a chance, and because there is still a bit of the stigma. I know there's still the female gender still feels a little sometimes intimidated, but we're seeing that changing more and more. And like I said, in terms of age, the two couples that I just described, were older women, who had taken the course. So there is something really inspiring about watching David Malin and teaching CS50, and you see this and read the comments, all the time, and it's really motivating and heartening. So I think, if they can see students who traditionally maybe found it not accessible, they should see now that it is very accessible, right? There, again, as I mentioned before, 3 platforms, 3 ways of taking CS50, or really any kind of computer science course now with MOOCs and all of that. There's so many things available. But I think if they kind of change their mindset in thinking that you're not learning about computers, you're learning about really how to solve problems, right? And alleviate suffering in the world. And when you think about and you hear about some of these technologies and inventions that are, have come to be, it's pretty incredible. So I think if you just kind of flip it, the idea of it, I think you will have more, people who aren't so intimidated and aren't so scared by it, and really want to, go on that path. So anyway, it's inspiring. It always makes me think about, how inspiring what I do really is, and it gives me that energy. And even today, and I want to thank you all here at Riga Business School, because it really, I need to be reminded of all the great things that we're doing too, that impact not just Harvard and, the internal community, but really seeing what David does, around the world, really impacting so many people and so many lives, right? Yeah. So.
Thank you, Bernie, for all the effort and for your energy. and yeah, I think CS50 really made a lot of people lives different, in a good way, positive way. And you said that times has changed, but people still, they need to catch up. And I think we don't really appreciate all the resources and opportunities we have, including that CS50 that's created at Harvard is accessible for
Correct.
everyone.
Absolutely.
For everyone. Yeah.
Yep.
So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode when we invite our alumni from Riga Business School.